Bonjour. My name is Leah. I am here today to talk to you about food sustainability and modern agriculture with Growcer. But just a little bit about me. So I am from Port Severn in Ontario, and that is near Georgian Bay area. And I now live in Ottawa. I've been there for about 6 years, and just to acknowledge and thank you very much for having me, and I will acknowledge that I do now live on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nations. And I'm very grateful to be here today. I actually met Chief Stephen McCumber almost a year ago when I first started with Growcer. And he came to one of our farms, he went in, he told a bunch of jokes. It was probably a week after I started. And so I thought to myself, if this is what my job was going to be, then I'm really happy to be here. So almost a year later, I'm here now presenting to you, and so thank you for having me. The work that I do is trying to empower communities with the food systems. So when I first heard about Growcer, it was about 5 years ago, and I was in an Indigenous community and social development program, and I was learning a lot about how, supporting communities with more than just, an infrastructure or something that you drop off and leave. That was not the way. So I started wanting to do something to have a bigger impact. And I learned about Growcer, and I saw the work that they were doing with these modular farming units, and the fact that they were able to withstand such temperatures so that you can grow food all year round up north was something that I was very passionate about. And so I started my learning journey there, and just about a year ago, this position came open, and it really fit every box, every strength that I had, and I couldn't be more grateful to be in this space. So Growcer's been operating since 2015. We have just actually hit last year 100 units across the country. So we work, in my particular role, work with nations all across North America now. We've actually been moving into the US, which is very exciting, with communities down there as well. So the mission here is to help provide local sustainable food sources to anyone, anywhere, and they are meant to be 100% owned and led by your community, for your community, in whatever capacity that looks like. Has anyone heard of Growcer before?
Not at all.
Perfect. All right. Well, today's your day. So just a bit of the terminology that we really see in these spaces is food insecurity, so that's the lack of access to food that is affordable. Food sovereignty, so referring to that, the right of people to have control over their food systems. Modern agriculture, which I like to call what we do. It is using technology, research, and innovation to increase food availability, and then also through the use of vertical farming. So, has anyone heard of, I'm sure, vertical farming and feel good about it? Good enough. But the purpose of our modern agriculture and this vertical farming is to be able to output a lot of food in a very small space. So there is, when we start having these conversations with communities, we help identify whether this is going to be a food sovereignty project, so just getting food into the hands of community members, whether that's selling food to be able to build a profit, to then use those funds maybe towards other services and supports for the community, that's another way, and then education and training. So we do have a very extensive training program that is accompanied with these projects. There's training all throughout for the community operator, as well as curriculum that we've developed for students. It doesn't need to be a mixture, it can be a mixture of all three, and it can start as food sovereignty, so just getting food to the community. As you grow and become comfortable, we can help you make that into an economic development venture, so whether that's, getting contracts or getting another farm unit to build up your output of food, that is something that we do. So this is an ongoing relationship that we have with community, and there is somebody to guide every step of the way. So even if it's 5 years down the road and you want to grow something else, you can always give us a call. So just to kind of highlight a few community stories that encompass one of or two or three of those components. So this is Squamish Nation, and they are the food sovereignty, very socially focused program. Child and Family Services actually pay for the ongoing costs so that they can just grow as much food to give away. So that is an example of when a department within your nation is, partnering with those who would like to run it, and, if those costs are covered, you can experiment, you can just give away all of this food. You don't have to charge for it. Atomic Fresh is Montana First Nation. They're in Alberta, and they are our biggest project. They have 8 farm units. As you can see there, they look like portables. They don't have any artwork on the outside, but the Atomic Fresh, they have 2 large contracts with grocery stores in Calgary and Edmonton. So what they do is they grow as much as they can to sell it to those contracts, and then they give away any surplus that they have. So that's a really neat example of the economic development arm. Nipissing First Nation is the Manoogan Greenhouse. So they're in Northern Ontario, and they are an example of a mixed model. So they actually encompass all 3. So they started off as food sovereignty. They were going to just try to give away, and then they got bigger. The community members sometimes will just show up, in their car, and they'll honk the horn, and they'll come out with a box of food. And so they actually have 3 farm units, and they have a hub unit. 2 of those are for community, and then 1 is to sell to local businesses nearby. So they are generating profit to cover those costs and also make sure that community is getting access to that food. And as they continue to grow, they're actually going to become a training hub unit. So we have a training that we provide in Ottawa once every month or every other month, and it's called Root Camp Training. And it's 2 days of everything you need to know about hydroponic growing. And what Nipissing is going to be doing is being able to run the trainings that we have out of their unit. And it's 1 day in farm, 1 day in the class, and so they'll be able to actually bring people through and show you how to seed and how to harvest this food. It's really exciting, and every project is different. So these are a few other brands that we have helped launch, and another one that I wanted to highlight, and another way to get community involved. So these projects operate on a very, I want to say, commercial scale, because they output a lot of food. And sometimes some people in the community will want to do this project, and then others will feel very left out. So a really great way that we've seen people getting more involved is one in particular, this story here. So this is Shishigwaning, and what they did was they put a call out for artwork. So they're on Manitoulin Island in Ontario, and they put a call for artwork out to the community. And so then they had done choosing what was the best piece that was going to go on the outside of the unit. And this is the one that won. So this is Odawa, and you can't really see, but there's a little lettuce, there's a bok choy, and then there's herbs. And so they're planning to sell. They did run into a few little setbacks, but they are moving forward, and so we've been able to support them on that, and they sell to the restaurants and also do a subscription food box. Why Growcer? We are a Canadian company and provide infrastructure, delivery to community, project planning, distribution support, multi-level training all throughout, and then that ongoing support. We even do funding procurement support. So whether that looks like grant writing, or if there is a joint venture partnership, we are just about to launch so that communities don't need access to as much capital right off the hop. There are just different options there. And then we're also moving into community food assessment. So if you're not ready for a big farm like this or a project like this, we are starting to offer coming in and learning from you and learning what your goals are and really doing that planning side of things, because we're finding that some companies are doing that, and they, it's just more of a full circle support. So really focusing on the wraparound / full circle supports is something that we see that is how to help others become successful, and that is our goal. Different infrastructure solutions. So we do have the hydroponic farm. That is like the flagship. That's where they started. It was 2 University of Ottawa students that had gone up north and seen the food prices, and so they had started a company. If anyone watched Dragon's Den, they were on Dragon's Den years ago, and they didn't end up going through with it, but it was pretty brave at the time. So we used to do the shipping containers, and now we build them in Winkler, Manitoba, from scratch, very similar to a modular house. The reason for this is so that we know how how long they're going to last. We don't have to worry about retrofitting maybe an old unit that, they need to be food grade, and finding a food grade unit shipping container, it was a little bit more difficult to come by, and some had holes and all of this great stuff. So that is where they started, and we have moved into a strawberry farm, which is a completely different farm. As I believe one of the other presenters mentioned, there are those fruiting crops, and then there's those ones that can just kind of be on their own and grow well, such as lettuce, whereas the strawberries, you need to pollinate them, so you'll grow runners on one side and the other plant on the other side, and the lights are different. But we actually have in Ottawa, we have a farm, a hydroponic farm, so if you ever did want to come and check it out, we do tours, and we've been doing a lot of our strawberry research as well. In addition to that, we have cold storage units, root cellars, which are dry storage. So if you are doing traditional harvesting or going hunting and you need a place to store your meat, we do have these types of storage containers. And then the hub unit is what connects it. So as well as traditional greenhouses, because we're seeing that, some things are better grown in dirt, and that is fair enough. So we are starting to roll out some traditional greenhouses, if that might even be a start of the relationship that we have with the community, and that you've got to start somewhere. So the hub units, as you can see on that one picture, it's the unit that is down like that, and the farms you can attach them. So you can attach up to 4 farms or a storage unit or however, but typically we'll see people starting off with a hydroponic unit, be close to maybe even this place where you can harvest, or process the food is great to have nearby, but we do see a lot of communities starting off with the one farm. This is what we would call a food sovereignty project, but so as you saw Nipissing, they've got 3 units attached to that hub unit, and we've even been able to build out a workspace in the back. So there's sinks, countertops, and really anything that you'd need, and we can retrofit these units. So as I mentioned, they are built from scratch. They are built to the specification of the community of the customer. We also have different types of units, so education units that have tables and chairs on one side and growing half capacity on the other side, so that students can go in and learn about hydroponics and get credits through the curriculum. And we've even built accessibility units that have wider aisles and a place to turn around if you have a wheelchair. It is a really unique thing to see them all rolled out and be so different. So as I mentioned, they are 40 feet by 10 feet and are built to grow all year round. The insulation within them is of course dependent on where you're from. So BC may not have as much insulation, of course, as Northern Alberta. You can grow between 600 to 900 heads of produce per week, and they grow on an ongoing basis. So there's a seed section, a little seedling area in the one part, and then you'll for 2 weeks, seed to seedling, they'll be grown in rock wool, and then you take those little rock wools and you put them in these rafts, and then you harvest on an ongoing basis. So, and we do use smart technology, so it does use an app. It uses technology to turn your fans on, turn your lights on, basically automate in the smart technology space. You could even turn your lights on on an app on your phone if you're sitting on your couch at home. So they're meant to be 100% operationally friendly. They use 95% less water than traditional agriculture, and I like to say that they are an excellent addition to traditional agriculture. If you have growing land and you would like to use that for other things, we typically recommend leafy greens because they grow the fastest and they grow the best in these spaces. So you can have a harvest in 4 to 6 weeks. And as I said, it's an ongoing basis, so it gives you a lot of time, and there's only 25 hours that you need to actually spend in the farm. So for people who don't want, or if you don't have time for a full-time job, you can go in 2 hours here, 2 hours there. The hours are very flexible as long as the things are harvested and it's been cleaned. And we've also helped build out a few full-time positions, so whether that's adding on distribution hours, so taking the food and maybe going to a farmer's market, or driving it up to the resort that you have a contract with, we can build that out and Alrighty, so the project planning aspect. So what it can grow, as I mentioned, those leafy greens, but also herbs, traditional crops. We've seen success with tobacco that looks very beautiful. Lilies, mountain sorrel, even sweetgrass, and the seedling section is a really great way to, get your seeds growing started quickly, and then you can move them outside as well. And then our strawberry unit. You can grow other things. The reason why we say these leafy greens is they're like economically viable crops because they spend the least amount of time in the farm. The longer time they spend growing, the more it costs you in the farm, and so that's where the levels are. So if you did have a food sovereignty project and you weren't worried about making a profit, experimentation is a lot more possible. We have one farm that is growing cherry tomatoes and peppers and peas. They've got all strung up across. It's pretty wild, just seeing what people are up to and what they're experimenting in these hydroponic spaces. So this is kind of an overview of our root camp training. As I mentioned, we get folks from all across coast to coast to coast, and we also do custom. So if your community wants a custom root camp, we could probably get you in there and be a little bit more straightforward on what your goals are. And I've also popped in the dates for our root camp. I do have some cards in there if you would like to learn any more, want to have a conversation. I'm happy to continue that with you. And maybe I'll see you in Ottawa sometime this year. We also provide the on-site training and the farm commissioning. So there is the root camp training, which is the initial training. There is online training as the farm is being built. And then there is the on-site training. So that's the horticultural training that's helping you set everything up, making sure that the community operator, and so the community operator is someone who has a passion to feed the community, has a passion to grow, and has the idea that they're going to stay there. The biggest things that we run into is access to capital and capacity. So that's why we offer grant writing service support and that funding procurement support so that these projects can get off the ground, and then training an individual who is really passionate that wants to be there. Then we'll also work with you on site preparation. So the units can't be on the ground directly. You need to either have steel piles that it sits on or a concrete slab with railroad ties. And so we can work, if you have it with a lands team that can get this all set up. We'll work with you on that. If you need to hire an external contractor, we'll help you there too. Also, you don't need a direct line for water. You can get an insulated garden hose. We will send you a water testing kit to see what your water's like, and that'll help determine what the nutrient levels are and so on, or if you need a water softener or whichever, just to see if that is ideal. And then you just need a power supply. So we do have some that operate on diesel generator power. We can retrofit the units to fit that, or natural gas or electricity, whatever is available. And then internet is ideal for having your app, but also there are ways to get around that if reliable internet isn't available. So this is just an overview of our youth curriculum. So it's from kindergarten to grade 12, but it was developed with a few community partners that we have, and so it gets young people thinking about this in the classroom at a young age, and as they grow, you can actually get a credit for this curriculum. So the ongoing support, as I mentioned, there is an app, and it'll help you track all of the tasks that you need to do. If there's any nutrient level issues, it'll pick up on that, and you can get these notifications. So it is a really cool way for young people to get involved. I'm sure a lot of you see your kids on the tablet all the time, and it's just a neat, different way of gardening, and can really appeal there. So in these projects, the highest cost allocation is actually labor, followed by utilities. So we help you figure out, you tell us what your living wage is, or living wage, something that's maybe not minimum wage, something that is enough to keep somebody there, or enough to make somebody feel like when they come into work and want to do that, or they're comfortable, with that amount. It is different across provinces, but living wage is what we'll usually ask for, your kilowatt per hours, and we can actually figure out all of of the financials to either recommend certain things to grow, a certain percentage to sell, and all of those financials are provided to you at no cost, just to help you build that out. As I mentioned, the grant support services, so we do help with funding procurement. The largest one we've seen recently is the Local Food Infrastructure Fund. So that is through Agriculture Canada, and it funds up to $500,000 of a project cost, which, you know, for a lot of these things is a very good amount to get a project started. And if you do want to look at other grants and so on, we can do that too. It's really whatever you need. We are there. And then just a quick timeline. So usually what we'll do is I'll maybe come to an event like this, we'll chat. If you want to give me a call, and we do have, well, you've all seen the presentation now, so I won't put you through it again. But usually we'll do a virtual call, we'll go through all of this and really kind of start there, and then usually we'll get Chief and Council support. For funding, we'll ask for a BCR, just to really get the community on board and then go from there. So I am the starting point, and then we kind of just in this relationship that we have with all of you, and then we help work with all of the logistics all throughout. And then once it is installed and hooked up, once we come out there and help you get sorted, you can have your first harvest within 4 to 6 weeks. So depending on when you have or get funding, when, you know, however fast, if there are communities that have ice roads only, we have to time it so that units are built. They can be built between 3 months or 6 months. It depends. If you need it sooner, we'll bump you to the front of the line. If we're waiting for that ice road window, we'll build that unit and get it shipped up to you. And these are a few community projects. So this one, as I mentioned, is the education unit. So the kids are there on the one side, and they do, it's an agriculture school, and they do a lot of experimenting. So it's been really neat to see the kids get excited for it and really just be immersed in it. This is one of my favorite projects. And then this is one of our new ones. So we just dropped this one off at Alexis Nakota last year, I believe in November, but that is a part of the school. So when we see these ones that are, these farms that are hooked up to schools, the one that I went to visit was Pine Creek in Manitoba, but to have a unit next to the school so that the kids can go out there, and also to connecting the power from the school to the unit, it doesn't really change as much the power cost, whereas if you were having the unit sit somewhere else by itself, then you'll notice that. But this has been a neat way to offset those costs. This is Norway House Cree Nation. So they have a hub unit and a farm, and so they're also kind of a mixed model, but what they do is they sell the food to the schools, and then they they get the students involved, and it's all a part of their lunch programs. And so wrapping it all up, some keys for a successful project. So having a project champion, so somebody who's passionate, somebody who's gonna, you know, once we get that support from leadership, stay on top of them. You know, don't forget about us. We need you to sign off or what have you. Having the champion to get that support from leadership, and also having leadership on board, because, you know, Chief and Council is, we want their support, of course. But then having people who are passionate about this project and keeping that going. If ever there is a change in the person who's operating your farm, will do the training for the next person, and it's like a really ongoing training thing, so we can keep it going and so on. So, and then the clear project goals. So by the way, this is my first presentation by myself, so I really appreciate you listening to me through all of this, but those are the main keys for a successful project, and that is an overview of Growcer. So I will say thank you, Miigwech, for having me. And if you want to follow up, I will be here as long as I'm allowed to be here. But again, my name is Leah, and thank you.